welcome to another episode of Strive 365, a podcast about how to push through challenges and thrive every day, no matter the odds. We're here to help guide you to live a better life, whether it be mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. And I am your host, Justin Arnold, in the amazing RockVox studio here in Rochester, New York. So today we are honored to have Dr. Zulia on the show, a renowned expert in the field of health and wellness. She's the founder of Recharge Health and the creator of Flexbeam Recharge, which I have here actually because it's something I use every day. That's why we want her on the show. It's a great tool, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, on the show. And so she's just changing the way people approach their physical and mental health. She's got a deep passion for helping others achieve their optimal well-being. So she's dedicated her career to researching and develop innovative tools and practices that can make a real difference in people's lives. So help join us in welcoming Dr. Zulia. So Dr. Zulia, I want you to give a little intro to the people, where you're at too, because I always find that unique when we interview people in different places.
So I am in Barcelona, Spain, and thank you so much for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to speak about red light therapy. It's, speak and educate people that things like this exist, so we could actually improve our life and improve our health by using virtually the light which is surrounding us.
Yeah, so can you tell me a little bit about your background, how you got started in the field of health and wellness, how long you've been doing this?
Right. Like normally people would do, they start with having personal experience. I myself studied medicine, was working as medical doctor, and unfortunately I got in a serious car crash, and I experienced my personal issues, and I learned that you could heal your body a natural way. And I designed my own program, and I went through all the aches and pain and horrible periods of recovery, depression, and belief, disbelief. And so basically, once you experience to come back to life from being completely broken, you learn something about yourself, something really special. And then you just cannot be stopped, and you want to tell the world about your experience. So that set me on the path of learning what other ways, what other tools are available for people when they want to repair their health.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to that. That's a similarity we definitely have. I wrote a book actually called Purpose Through Pain that I've talked about on this show. But if you're curious, we can talk about it more later. But essentially from mental trauma, physical pain, the amount of times I've been in the ER, from broken necks to torn shoulders and rotator cuffs to back injuries, from head to toe injuries. And that's what got me. And then also just having a family where, how do I want to put this? Being physically healthy wasn't a priority as far as, so I've had both my parents have been deal with obesity and like heart disease, and they both have had cancer. And so like at a very young age, I was like, man, what can I do to prevent this? And I was finding there's a lot of, well, it's great to have doctors and it's great to have these hospitals and things. I look at those as like sometimes temporary or last resorts, but there's so many things like you mentioned can be done the natural way. Like nature has provided these great tools. I'm always asking the question, like, how have we survived thousands, if not millions of years without
exactly.
this?
How was it before?
Yeah. So I love that you said that. And man, so serious car crash. When was that? And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, some time ago, I prefer not to remember the
I get it. Yeah,
I was 30, and imagine I was in a perfect health, absolute fitness, in a literally top of my life, and suddenly I was facing the possibility to end up living in a wheelchair in the best scenario.
Oh, wow.
So coming out of that, it was a tremendous challenge. And, what helped me in this spirit, the strength of my own spirit. And I really tell my patients ever after that, this is the first thing you need to believe you can get on the other side of the on the other side and become healthy again. So I used everything, like you said, tools, natural. I used to run into sunrise and bathing in the sun rays intuitively, because you kind of feel this is like healing light surround you. I used to do lots of exercises and diets and everything. Like, apart from, nothing could be, I didn't require surgery for my condition. So, but I was living in pain for a long time, many years, until I actually came across of physical modalities using sort of bioelectricity, or I would say the electrical neurostimulation, light stimulation, and it's became part of my normal routine working with patients to provide this energy. Because behind everything, behind trauma, behind serious illness or chronic illness, there is an energy deficit. And if you give people this source of energy, you actually solving the problem already in half. And then you just need perseverance. Yes, I work in my practice for many years, learning about different modalities, learning about photobiomodulation, or learning about Chinese medicine, because these guys could explain to me what is how energy circulates in the body on metaphysical way, in the ancient way, but there was some a logical sense behind it.
Man, I like what you said there too. Behind everything, trauma, illness, there is energy. You know, you're essentially giving people, potentially replacing that negative energy or whatever we want to call it with some positive source. You talked about light therapy, which we're definitely getting into now, but it's just amazing how you phrase that. And I want to believe people know this, but when I talk to people and tell them about energy, I don't think people fully understand, like, the energy you surround yourself. I feel like everybody, in at least the entrepreneurial world here in America, has heard you are who you surround yourself with. But do they truly understand it? Because I continue to see these people and who they surround themselves with, and how there is energy within us, and how that affects us in positive or negative ways. But we need to have the self-awareness to either remove that, get away from it, and then replace it and be around it. And so you're also talking about not only from the physical pain, from the mental pain, which I absolutely love. So that's that's incredible. And I love, just, you sound similar to me, just a couple years ahead of me, but just exploring different avenues. You talked about Eastern medicine, and I just find that fascinating that you're looking for ways to really truly help people, and that's why you're on this show. So why don't we get into it a little bit? Because, I have always explored different modalities. I was probably, but before I dive into things, I always want to read the research, then do some more experimentation before I start, like, recommending it to my clients. Like, I'm a gym owner and things like that. And so, and I'm a life coach and all these things. So I think it was a couple of years ago where I came upon your product, and it was sent to me, and now I'm an affiliate and I promote it because I'm just a big believer in it. And it's nice to have something like, I've had the red light things that hang on the door and in the rooms, and those are great, but they're not portable. And I just like this, especially when I suffered a back injury last year, and I put this on, and I would say it was a major contributor to the relief. So how'd you first become interested in red light therapy? And then I want to hear how you developed, Flexbeam and recharge and everything.
Yes, yeah, it's very interesting. I'm very fortunate. I had in my life journey lots of interesting people. I met guides, I would say, the people who literally shaped my beliefs and understanding of physiology, physics around me, the world of physics. And so I must say that after learning about the interactive neuromodulation, which, sounds very scientific, but it's a
yeah, I'm going to be like, explain that.
It's an energy aspect which you use the electrical energy on the body. And from there, I just kind of switch into learning about electroacupuncture, electroacupuncture. And then I was always fascinated with light, and thinking light is...
Electric acupuncture, is that what you were saying?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
wow.
electroacupuncture. And no, listen to this. So when first time was exposed to photobiomodulation or light therapy, like simply people say, I learned from Dr. Weber in Germany, and he introduced me to a very cool concept. It's a laser acupuncture. So instead of sticking needles into the acupuncture points, you can actually shine a beam of light and send
Oh,
energy through
wow.
the meridian system
Yeah.
using light. So with all this, of course, I've got it in my clinic. I use it on daily basis with patients, and I have phenomenal results. One thing was missing there for me is to have something which would be continue what I've done with patient on my treatment. So I wanted the patient to go home and continue the work I do, because I see them once a week, once in 2 weeks' time sometimes. So that prompted me to think that we need a tool people can take home and self-heal, continue self-healing. And it, again, like happens, when you send to universe request, suddenly people come into your life with the same intent, with the same paradigm. And I met two amazing guys, and who were thinking alike, and who were also genuinely wanted to help people to stop the suffering. They're suffering so much. And so that's probably how I got involved too. And these two guys, by the way, they founded company which was called Recharge.
Okay.
And when I joined them, we collectively started recharging people's health.
Isn't that amazing? I would love to hear, especially in those early days, what are share some of those stories, if you don't mind, like one or two stories where you saw somebody's life potentially transform with this type of therapy.
Oh, good. So many. I mean, simple daily aches and pains like back pain, muscle ache, overexercising, joint pains. That is kind of easy. I never forget I met somebody who was suffering with tremendous headaches. They were driving him completely insane. He was almost suicidal because of the pain so much, and it was continuously day after day. And to be able to actually, in the space of 3 weeks, to transform somebody who was years and years on daily agonizing pain to the point when he suddenly stopped having pain. It's so rewarding. It's so significant for this particular person. But if we have many cases like this, I had also lots of girls writing to me because they have heavy periods, and sometimes it's very painful as well. Ooh. And again, we women, we experience this unfortunate, every month.
Yeah, that's not on my radar. So, I mean, I have 2 daughters and a wife, but I'm a man, so that's not even. I'm glad you brought that up. That's incredible.
Yeah, and that's where I found this light therapy, the Flexbeam particularly, was very, very instrumental. So they write me, and they wrote to me to say there was life-changing experience because they just stopped having these pains. So can enjoy life again.
So so these women that were experiencing these painful periods, where would they wear the Flexbeam? Would they wear it on their belly or?
On the abdomen, on the low abdomen and the sacrum. That's basically where surrounding the area of the uterus, ovaries, but also in traditional Chinese medicine that there is a special, they talk about Chon meridian, special meridian, which like a cistern fills with energy. So it's potentially that fertility because it's spinning the energy in the pelvis. Yeah.
So, and like, how long would they wear it for? And would they wear it, 10 minutes at a time, multiple times a day? Yeah. How many days till they started finding relief? I'm curious about that.
Yes, normally, it's individual. It depends on the vitality, age, and how long they were suffering. But most of the time, you just use it when you're experiencing these period pains because they're cramps. You just put it over there. 10, 20, I would say 20, 30 minutes at a time. And if it's, of course, really debilitating, maybe they could use this twice a day. But, 3-4 days, and it's normally finished.
Wow.
Yes.
And they were finding some amazing relief.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So I wanted to say this. So, and you're probably familiar with this, the way you're talking, that just how you said earlier when you started that about pain, and that the aches and pains is easy. And for many people, it's easy to treat with this, which is so probably joyful and refreshing to hear, probably for some people, and be able to experience and know it. And it can be so simple, right? You're wearing this for 10 minutes a day, but it's like, for at least here in the States and the people I've worked with, pain becomes so much of a person's identity. Like my bad knee, my old shoulder, I'm getting so old, like it becomes so much a part of them that it is them. And when you start to try to break down that identity, it's almost like you're breaking down them, so they become defensive of it, right? Like, I don't know if you've experienced it, but I've experienced that plenty in my practice. Yeah.
Totally. More so, I tell you, Justin, when they wake up and the first thing they think, where is my pain? And I'm just really sincerely believe they, by even thinking of that, even they not recreating it. I know it's a physical damage, but they inviting that pain into their bodies.
Pause. So you're saying people literally wake up and are like, they're searching almost like for that pain and to justify it and solidify it in a way. Is that,
yes, and reinforce that pain. Like, instead they should look put a photograph of your fittest time when you're looking young and fit and everything, and identify yourself with that person rather than person who is like, oh, I've got pain here, I've got pain there. It's lots of it. You're absolutely right. Psychological, emotional, physical, they become entwined.
Fascinating. I mean, I'm a big believer, but like you put it in a way that I probably have thought of, but I haven't said it the way you said it, that they invite it in. Like, it's not that people don't get injured and people don't get hurt, but when you are thinking about it all the time, or you're searching for it, or you're justifying it, and then you're actually inviting more of it into your life, and it's hard for it to go away, and then it becomes so much a part of you. It's a good perspective. Yes. So you you said it a little bit, but what do you suggest for people like that are listening to try to reformulate their thought process when they first wake up to not invite it into their life?
Yes, that's great. That's first step, actually. And first step, you also have to believe you can be free from that pain. And if you don't carry this belief, then it's unlikely you can actually recover and be pain-free.
Yeah, just try to not make it a part of your identity. I mean, that's something I say to my clients. It's like, we could break down how long it takes, but you just got to continually do it. For example, I started this thing. It came out of nowhere. Well, not really nowhere, but I talked about it on a previous podcast where I was, after my back injury, I was running pretty regularly with my daughter, and then trying to get up and run past a mile was painful. So I said at the beginning of this year, I was like, I'm going to run at least a mile a day for a year, and let's see how that goes. Cause I can at least do a mile, right? Before, to give you an idea, I was running 5Ks, 10Ks, and it was no issue. And then all of a sudden this back injury, and then it was not fun anymore, it was uncomfortable. So I made this commitment because I'm very active, very athletic, and I have very athletic children, including a runner in one of my children. And so I've been doing it, but the first 21 days, it was the mental overcoming of it. It was like, I'm not a runner. I'm not running every day. I don't run marathons. This sucks, all that. And then when I started changing that story, and then just the habits of it, after about 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so, it's like, now it's just, I'm going to run my mile like I did it before this podcast. And it's just part of my day. It's like brushing your teeth. And so you've got to get the reps in, and then the reps also, not for me, it was a physical thing, but the mental aspect. So that's what I always encourage people to do when you need to change a story. But first you need to just be aware. And are you feeding the pain? Or are you feeding the comfort, the healing process? Are what are you feeding? It is another way I look at it as far as that story you're telling yourself. So I really love that. So, well, I want to dive a little bit more into the science of red light therapy and how it works. We've talked a little bit about the benefits of health and well-being, but I really want to get into this because, like, I was real hesitant for years. And it's hard. A lot of people, from my experience, at least here, is that they want quick results. They want to feel it, but sometimes it's having the self-awareness to see the progressive feelings of it, to know that it's not there. And also it takes a little with the mental and the physical, but red light therapy goes back. I mean, this isn't new. It's new for like people getting it in their hands like this, but it's been around for like decades, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it started really blossoming sort of in 60s, I would say.
Yeah.
And it started, it started way earlier. It started in the ancient times when, they said light has healing properties. Then there was a time when they used treating tuberculosis, patients. They put them out on the terrace in Europe.
Even in cold weather, right? In the sunshine, right? Yeah.
In the sunshine. They already knew about this. But of course, in 1960s, that's when the lasers come up, and the laser is amplification of light. And so with lasers, there was Andre Mestre, the first experiment when he tried to cause cancer, shining red light on mice and saying, it's going to be cancer. And instead, he actually healed the cancer. So they started growing nice fur and everything. So he's like, why God, it's got some healing properties to it. But so before red light therapy or photobiomodulation, known just as a low-level lasers, because light was given to the body in the small intensities. Yes. Hard lasers, hard light was in the big intensities, and it uses in surgeries to cauterize, to cut, to stop bleeding, like basically burn it in the wounds or surgical procedure. But the other type of lasers, they were low intensity, they had photostimulative effect. So that was known as low laser therapy. But then it kind of started to shift the mid-90s, I would say, because what happened, NASA showed interest using light for growing plants, because they obviously wanted
we know
to
that. Yeah,
step out of into space. And there was a happy accident because somebody damaged the hands, and they working with red lights, and they noticed, oh my God, my wound is generating so quickly. So that's how NASA got interest in particularly healing aspect of light. And of course, once such a prestigious institution start working with this, they got their attention. So scientists start researching, and now we have photobiomodulation like umbrella, but it's a use also lasers and LEDs. So LEDs progressed since 90s tremendously. And I must say proudly that with Flexbeam, we have here really high top quality of LEDs. And that means it much more energy conserving. So that's energy efficient LEDs, and they also are very clean. And these LEDs last a lot longer than maybe some cheap stuff from China, I would say.
Amazon or something. So what do you mean? So what's lasts longer? So what can you expect? How long can you expect these to last?
It's really designed for the hours, how much intensively you use, but the 2-3 years it would last. The battery would last, but the LEDs would last for the whole lifespan of the device.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I've been using it, like I said, for a couple of years, and it seems to be just as good. I maybe have to recharge it a little more often, like you said, the battery, but it's a great tool. So for the more advanced people, now, is there, for the people that would talk about like direct and indirect red light, do you have that? Is that in the Flexbeam?
So basically, the science behind it split into two ways to use. One is to look at it, yes. So you stimulate light using your light receptors in the eyes, stimulate the brain pathways, etc. So you have more systemic effect. And then you can have another when you place on the body, cutaneous. So they have different actually ways of stimulating the body, different properties and different impact. And also we have lights divided by different wavelengths. So we have visual spectrum of light, which is blue, green, yellow, red. And we have two invisible spectrums. It's in ultraviolet and near infrared and infrared light. So this is all, and they all have impact on the body, because let's face it, we part of the nature. We evolved within this nature. We evolved under the sunshine.
Yes.
So each cell in our body learn how to harvest the energy of the sun in a specific way. So different cells absorb light in the different wavelengths. And different wavelengths would have a different physiological impact on the body. So if we talk specific to Flexbeam, it produces red and near-infrared light, which has direct stimulation of mitochondria. So we're directly targeting energy in the cell mechanisms or organelles with these particular wavelengths.
Yeah. Thanks for correcting me. That's what I meant to say, infrared and near infrared. Cause I know and then the wavelengths that you talked about that people are always curious about. And that's what I just think is really cool. So what are some of the benefits? Just, say somebody's not dealing with pain, or say somebody's not dealing, what's just somebody that's typical healthy male, how could they benefit from something like this?
It's actually a unique device, because you can use it when you're completely healthy or when you have some injuries. Yes. So, and I think you should use it, right? Even if you're healthy male, you can optimize your physical performance. You can keep your energy at the maximum efficiency in the body. And when I talk about energy, it's not just the way that you can kick the ball or hit someone in the fight. Yes, I'm talking about energy which facilitates the whole body function. So what's been happening scenario nowadays, Justin, is that we all exposed to incredible amount of environmental toxicity. I mean, we have EMF around us. We have chemical pollutions in the food. We have the air is not clean. So it's constantly, and this all environmental toxins, they affect the cell on cellular level, and particularly they damage mitochondria, which makes energy in the cell. And the first outcome from this, that people would feel tired. Very quickly they become tired, fatigued, and they can't put finger on it. But this is all related to mitochondria health. And that's where I recommend everybody to use it at home, just so you can support that mitochondria, repair, give the energy into each cell in the body. And by doing this, you're basically supporting your body and you're preventing your body to get aged, because you function much better.
Yeah. And, that's so imperative, because I was just thinking when you're talking about this, how it affects your energy, and I assume it affects your sleep, but how it can also support, the red light can support so it can improve your energy, it can improve your immune system, can improve your cognitive function, it can improve your performance if you're an athlete, because it's improving mitochondria function, as you mentioned. But just to give you an idea of Rochester, New York, Western New York, we have 3 winters and 1 summer. That's our weather here. So it's like 2 weeks ago it was 80, but right now it's like 40s and rainy. It might snow again before even in May, and then out of nowhere. So we do have spring and fall essentially, and so, the falls here are really beautiful, but we just have these very little sunlight from about October to April, May, even June, and then the sun's out. And so I've talked to many people about, if you're living in places like us, especially red light. So could you talk on that for a little bit?
Oh gosh, this is so important. I tell you, because I lived 25 years in the UK when you literally don't see the sun. And I can tell you from first hand.
So the UK is worse. Okay, really, thanks for that. No, we're better. No, I'm kidding.
It really affects me. I've affected my energy level, affected my depression status. I didn't feel happy. And most of the time you just feel you dragging your body through it. And there is actually physiological explanation for this. Do you know that from real sunshine, the majority of spectrum of lights, it's red and infrared lights. All this spectrum of light, it's 40-50% of the sun spectrum. So if you don't see the sun, you don't receive these particular beneficial waves. And what science is telling, especially with very latest research, probably year 2022, is that when your body is exposed to near-infrared light specifically, you develop a mechanism in each cell to produce melatonin. It's most people identify melatonin as a hormone for sleep, which is produced in the pineal gland. Yes, but this we're talking about different degree of melatonin. It produced inside almost each cell in the body in response to this oxidative stress, as I said, from pollutants, but also our metabolic process. So if we are able to, by exposure for near-infrared light, to clear the cells, we actually protecting our cells. And of course, it affects our mood, and it affects our cognitive function. Like you said, brain fog is a part of that picture when you starving on sunlight. So for these people, I always say, if you can, go outside in nature, run, enjoy the sunshine if you can. But, most people can't. They have to work 9 to 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and live in the cities where there are massive skyscrapers. They just don't get that light.
Yeah, and I can attest to the production of melatonin. I mean, even another doctor, Dr. Huberman, talks about, if you getting red light or getting the sunset first thing in the morning, but if you don't have access to sunrises, you're as you said, to produce melatonin in the cells happens in the morning. The best production potentiality, and the best a way to do that is to get, as you said, either red light or a sunrise. I mean, I will say, so my morning routine is, I pray, I meditate, and then I jump in a cold plunge, and then I go right into indoors, jump on trampoline to get the blood flowing, and then I sit in front of my red light, and then I put on the Flexbeam, and I start listening to whatever I decide to listen to. I always do like 10 minutes of something, whether it be a motivational thing or catching up on a podcast, just to be in the moment, and then just, be a little productive, let's be honest, while I'm in that red light. And I'll tell you, even if I had I don't have bad night's sleep, I always have a really good night's sleep, but one, it energizes my day. Those things that I just mentioned, especially those two tools. And then I already told you about the back pain, but just the benefits of that, and then going into my day, and then having a less, stressful throughout the day. When I'm on trips or when I'm traveling, and it's nice to have this with us, but when I don't do those things, like the cold plunging and the red light therapy, there is a difference. Even though I'm trying to tell myself, I don't necessarily need this, and I still have a good day. I'm not going to say I don't, but it's just when you get there, when you feel the difference, it's hard to not live without it. It's definitely a good tool and beneficial if you have the ability to have it. And you hit the nail on the head. I know so many people here, personal clients, personal friends, I didn't sleep well, or struggling with sleep, and you see how it carries over into their life, into their day. And it's these simple tools that are in nature, but the more we are in artificial environments, indoors, skyscrapers, as you mentioned it, artificial light that's keeping us up, the blue light late at night, and we're not exposing ourselves to nature, the woods, and people could call it hippy dippy, but it's there. It's all around us, and if we can't get exposed, like here in Western New York, to as much sun during, I would let's say 60% or more of the year, then we need to find different tools to do that. And a lot of people say take vitamin D, but you're still not getting the things that we've mentioned here. Like vitamin D only covers so much, right?
Yeah, but vitamin D, it covers the UV spectrum. Yes, because UV normally stimulates production of vitamin D in your skin. We're talking about near-infrared spectrum, which is opposite. And so Yes, I actually heard I'm in very close contact with users of the Flexbeam. People write to me through all social media.
That's awesome.
And they share with experiences. So lots of people take it as like creating a routine. If people experience some poor sleep, they just use Flexbeam, just put like a baby, on your chest and just like this. And that calms them down and they go into induce the sleep. And we know from scientific point of view, it does stimulate production of melatonin by the pineal gland. And also some people may experience opposite. They become energized. So for them, like for you, I would say use it in the morning, first thing, because then it prepares you for the day. And, we are different people, but it's either a spectrum. When you have sunrise or sunset, that's where you're exposed to particularly red and near-infrared light at most. So these two parts of the day could be used to substitute that lack of sunshine in the body.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something. So I don't have a need to use the Flexbeam at night as much, but there's been a few times where like I've been overly stimulated, like a late night concert or a kids event, and we're getting back at like 10 o'clock. And one of the things in the booklet you have is like to wear this like over here, like for those that are listening to this, basically it's like over your trap shoulder, kind of your back part of it on your chest. And it still blows my mind that like I could be overly stimulated, like it really like just hyper energy is a good way to put it, because that's the type of human I am. When I put that on, when I need to calm down, it's amazing that like I've even fallen asleep and my wife had to come get me off the couch, and I was like, this thing works. So there's a testimony for yourself as just far as like the occasional times I've had to use it to calm me down, get me prepared for bed, because let's be honest, we live life and not everything can be a perfect routine. And that's why I'm always a big believer in like, not necessarily become religious to the tools, but you need tools, especially in today's artificial world. Yeah. So,
yes.
So speaking of Flexbeam, so there's so much on the market, and you talked about it earlier. You can go anywhere on Amazon. There's millions of kinds, but what can users experience using Flexbeam recharge light devices, or how do they differ, or what can they see from other devices that are on the marketplace?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And I tell you, in the last, I would say 5 years, there is a literally exponential explosion of these red light therapy devices. And but you need to know what sort of goal, what's the purpose. If there are some women, for example, often look for red light therapy for improving their collagen on the face. Yes,
oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
They like those devices serve the purpose. They nice and everything, but they're weak. Yes, if you want to use these devices to apply to the joints or muscles, you want to, for example, support the muscular recovery from exercise, you need much stronger device. So Flexbeam or any other devices which have this cooling things, like they're designed to cool down LEDs, because LEDs are really super strong.
Yeah,
they're like LEDs on steroids here. Yes. So if you see the device with cooling thing, that means the power is there. And I think this is a crucial, I would say, distinction of the Flexbeam from other devices. Second important thing is that you could target, and you can target directly applying to the skin any part of inches. Like, for example, the ankle, you create a circle and you put your ankle there, or hand, or around the shoulder. So you target 3-dimensionally. So the beam goes from 3 sources and targets exactly where the damage is. Yes, we have 3 programs, so you can target by depth, how deeply you want. So, for example, skin level, small penetration level, and very deep penetration level. It's up to you. So I would say with Flexbeam, if you have a specific issue, you can target much better than, say, panels. Panels are really great. I love them myself, and I think they are very useful. But maybe not as practical as Flexbeam if you want to give a targeted treatment, because
Yeah.
You can't really mount target over your shoulder. Yes. The panel
Plus, you can
over
only
your shoulder.
unless you're like super, like unless you can afford it, which I believe most people can't. You'll only have the panel in front of you. Where the Flexbeam, you can have it in front of you, the side, as you mentioned, and the back all at the same time. So efficient for people that are living that busy, full life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, panels are great if you want to get systemic effect. You want to swim in this photonic energy of lights. They give you big systemic effect. But Flexbeam is much better for targeted situation. You can get also systemic effect if you put it over the stomach or over the spine. But it's just different because it's much, much more targeted. So I would say that is a forte of the device.
Yeah, and like I said, you can travel with it. You can put it in your suitcase if you're flying. Many of these red lights, it's a challenge. Plus, you're worried about getting them busted, and this is pretty durable too. So, as far as I'd put that on the list. And when she's talking about programs, basically on here, there's 3 different buttons. So for my low back, I want deep penetration when I was dealing with that pain. So I put it on level 3. And so why don't we talk about that? Because I don't think people fully understand how red light can penetrate the skin. You've touched on it, you talked on it, but explain the science and everything about that.
Yes, it's actually quite interesting because people don't realize that red lights will be absorbed, photonic energy of lights absorbed at the skin level, but near-infrared lights or generally infrared light has ability to penetrate the skin like it's nothing there. So it delivers photons of light deep at depth. So it's invisible to our eye. That's the problem because it's the wavelength so long, so our eyes not catching it. And so we can't see it. But if you use special cameras, you can capture infrared light at depth, and it's beautiful. But the beauty of infrared lights, it can go through tissues at different.
I'm listening. My computer's about to die. I'm going to plug it in. Keep going.
Sure. Yes. And so when we talk about this, just think of you walk on the beach, for example. Yes. So when you walk, you don't really see. You see the white lights, but suddenly you start feeling warmer and warmer and warmer. That is it's the infrared light getting energy into your cells. That warm sensation, because in physics, infrared lights absorbed by primarily water molecules in your body. So you literally get hot because you energize the water body in your body. So this is a property of infrared light. The infrared light is a little bit different because it's primarily focused on absorbing in mitochondria. Very little will be absorbed by the water, but it's still, when you apply it to the body, it feels nice, pleasantly warm, right?
Yeah.
And it makes little humming noise, the fans.
Yeah, and that's why I like it after a cold plunge. It's because you feel the warmth of the red light, and it's just a great little tool. So how would you, how would somebody who's very new to this, how would you recommend them getting into their daily wellness routine or putting it into their life?
So I would say start always with the stomach, and I tell you why stomach. Stomach in the body it's our engine, it's our factory. Whatever you eat, it transforms into you, right? And so all the enzyme, all the neuropeptides, all the regulative neurotransmitters, everything is formed in the gut. And I tell you, maybe because we live in polluted world, maybe because we live in a stressful environment, our gut is typically react by spasming up and, in response to stress. So always digestion suffers first. And when you start lacking a proper good digestion, then you start lacking into your essential amino acids, building up blocks for your body. So gut health to me always comes as a first if you want to start using it. So the simple applications is vertical positions over the stomach, horizontal position over the stomach. And another application I like to use is over the heart. But it's very, very good. It's calming, it's energizing at the same time, but it's also very good for your respiratory system, for the heart, because it literally, the infrared light will penetrate and reach, and heart muscle full of mitochondria. So you want them, these mitochondria, to be very efficient.
We could all use that, right, Scott? The calming over the heart. Scott's my producer. I don't know if you can chime in, but man, that's I haven't even used that one yet. But I have used it on the gut, and you see, it's become so much of my routine. I'm forgetting that I'm doing these things. The gut thing. So I have no appendix, and so it was removed in 2010. And I've always explored, and diet's always been number one, and focusing on what I'm putting in my body. But I actually used this, and I was skeptical. I'll be honest, I was skeptical. And I've been in front of red lights, didn't see anything, but this one for sure. So for those that are listening that have any IBS, gut issues, no appendix like me, I noticed like if I was inflamed, or even like in the morning, I would use it especially. And it definitely took away like bloating or inflammation or any kind of like gut discomfort that was going on, even minor, and even just a better flow state. So thanks for bringing that up, because it's like I'm doing these things and I forget about it. So but continue. You were saying something.
Yes, I want to add a couple of important points here. Point number one, latest research also shows that the gut microbiome is light sensitive. So if you want to get good bacteria, that would be an amazing way. And again, there's no side effects, nothing. You just put it there, 30 minutes a day. You do 3 applications around the stomach, for example, maybe somewhere else in the body. Also, latest research also showing that red light and infrared light particularly has anti-inflammatory effect. Literally, it actually produces those cytokines, or like little messengers molecules, which are reducing inflammation. So that's we should use this to our advantage. So if you have somewhere inflammation, it would be good to put it there as well. I like using the spine as a reference sort of area for general wellness. Because spine, it's our like structure for our neural system, spinal nerves, blood vessels, everything. So just putting over the spine, you can use it like this, or you can lie down on the stomach and just use it this way. So
for those that are listening, basically she's placing it like vertically on her spine and laying down. It's just a simple little cool thing. And you could lay there for, like she said, 10 to 20 minutes. So I just want to explain that for those that are listening.
Yes. And the last position, which I also quite like, is to put it over the back of the neck. And you place on the back of the neck, you basically improving the blood flow into your head and out. Because that's what's happened.
Right? Is that a good one for the migraines right there? Yeah.
We all carry stress here, and we sit in computers like that. So there is a great way to relax this area and enable better blood flow, which obviously give you clarity in thinking. So optimize your day, basically.
And one thing I don't think you've mentioned, but I'm going to mention because this is for people like me, is if you're doing this the first time and you're like me and you have a very busy mind, which I've overcome, but took years. And we've talked about that numerous times on this podcast. If you're a busy mind, always feel like you got to do something. Take this time to, if you don't meditate already, take this time to learn and explore meditation, or listen to something calming, because I will say from personal experience, the more you can be connected to the experience of the red light as opposed to distracted and busy minded, you're going to benefit a lot more. That's from personal. Would you agree to that too?
Yes, totally.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Lots of people also give me comments that they experience a very light antidepressive effect as well. But I think it's like anything. You're out in the sunshine and you feel happy. Maybe something happened to your body.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like when I sit in front of a red light and wear this, and especially the stomach one, when I wear it in the mornings, like it gives me this, and like it puts a smile on my face, gives me this energy. When I was dealing with like a neurologic, so I got COVID last year, and I was dealing more of a neurological experience as far as like I didn't get like the chest or the coughing in light of the physical. Mine was more neurological when I was diagnosed with COVID, and it was like a 9-month roller coaster battle. It was like doing these tools, and red light was part of one of those tools in the morning, because I would wake up like just feeling off, sad, depressed, these things I normally don't experience. And then by doing the things that like the cold plunge and the red light, I was back to normal Justin, and so you mentioned it, so I'm glad you brought that up, because again, another thing of just the benefits of these things and to have them as tools in case you need them. It's kind of like anything else. You have, like, as a parent, I'm going to relate it since I'm a dad. As a parent, you hope worst case things never happen, but you have 911 on speed dial. You have the Band-Aids and the medical kit in the medicine cabinet. You hope you never have to use these things, but you have them in case you do. Now, red light's a little bit different. It's something you should probably use every day, especially live in these climates. But I just want you to get to think outside the box if this sounds very new or something very different or seems weird or you're skeptical, because it's like, it once you use it and you find the benefits of it, and when you find what it works for you, maybe you don't need to use it for all the things we mentioned it for, but I'm sure there's one thing to take away from what we've said so far on this podcast. And again, I'm not trying to sell you. She's not trying to sell you. She only got into it because she saw the benefits and she wanted to help more people, and she knew it needed to be be able to be mobile. And that's why I had her on here, because I knew she'd be a great resource to really open your eyes to something different. I'm sure she would agree with this. It doesn't matter if you buy the Flexbeam or what, but like, get exposed to these things, open up your mind and start to explore. There's a lot of natural things out there and really cool technology like Flexbeam that can help aid in a healthier and better life to strive every single day. So, yeah.
So in agreement with you. It's absolutely true. And I tell you, for those the skeptics who may listen to this podcast, I specifically designed to to myself the studies for evaluation of this device. I came with an extreme skepticism because I use various tools, and I'm thinking I'm going to use it to prove this doesn't work.
You sound like me.
So wrong. Yes, it was just so amazing. I came out of this 3 weeks of the intense study, and I just came out of this. I've seen things which I haven't seen in practice for a long time, and people were just coming with all sorts of problems. Yeah, but I wanted to make sure it works.
Well, a couple more questions before we wrap it up here, because we're almost running out of time. But one thing I'm curious, did the pandemic affect the way people approach health and wellness, or your company, or did you see more people, or do you, let's talk about a little bit of the pandemic, because I feel like we're still in it a little bit. And what role do you see Flexbeam or red light therapy playing in this role in the post-pandemic world?
It's very, very strange experience we lived through this last few years. Thank God in Europe we don't really see it's been and gone, but I know in the States it's still going on. To start with, first of all, we all experience it's the fact that we suddenly were unable to access medical services adequately. So lots of people were put on hold. They have some issues, cancer patients, whatever. But if you have some broken leg or some injury, there is nowhere a place to go, because suddenly you're not able to receive medical help. So that's where people start looking into alternative way to manage situations like this at home. And I must say that our company launched in 2020. So not the best time for...
Sounds like perfect time to me with the health of the world. I think it sounds perfect.
Yes, and we've got really, really massive uptake of the devices because people were looking for solutions, something which were not able for them. And of course, through the course of 21, we saw lots of people use Flexbeam to support themselves in their recovery, whether it's recovery from virus was as well, use them. And then now 2022, we start seeing research into specifically red light therapy, near-infrared lights, for actually supporting in treatment of COVID. And there are some big papers, which big studies available now, which talking about using different infrared, near-infrared nanometers wave to particularly to support you in your recovery. So yes, in general speaking, I think personally, these tools should be in every home. They should be, because in situation of crisis, it's almost like, you buy the panels, solar panels, because there is an energy crisis. But if you're in a health crisis, you need something which can be so ubiquitously work on many things. And you have this tool at least.
Yeah, it's back to our conversation on like you have the Band-Aids in the house. I mean, this is bigger than a Band-Aid, yes. But like literally and figuratively. But yeah, you have those in the house. We have solar panels on our house. We got them last year. They're actually solar roof tiles, so they actually replace our whole roof. And we've seen a massive improvement in our electricity bill. But it's just one of those things because, like you said, an energy crisis. So yeah, I agree. It's a cool tool to have. A couple more, but. So for those that are, again, we talked about the skepticism that may be struggling with like chronic pain, physical pain, mental pain, or any other health challenges, what kind of advice would you give these individuals that may be seeking alternative forms of treatment or relief, whether it be red light or whatever, recommendations?
Well, of course, number one, I would say, why don't you try Flexbeam? Because, we know now so many people used it. We know definitely it works. And there is a money back guarantee. I think it's 30 days, but I think we're extending even now to 100 days because
they're a really generous company. I'll tell you that right now. So.
and of course, like we talk at the very beginning of our podcast, that it's important of the way how you look at the problem. So you have to understand the pain. It's expression of something is not right in the body. So you have to act on this. You act on this, and you have to understand what is the root cause of that pain. And try to focus your energy into recovery, not on feeding that sensation of pain and just constantly comfort you and saying, well, I'm in pain. No, look for solution. And if you look, you always will be able to find it.
Awesome. Hey, last question here. So we've talked a lot about Flexbeam, and it's a great tool. In addition to Flexbeam, are there any practices or tools that you would recommend that we haven't talked about today to help people strive to live a better life, physically, mentally, emotionally, that you'd love to share before we bounce off here?
Yes, I'd say the two pillars, massive pillars, is nutrition. So eat well, eat clean, well, and organic, and nutritionally, energetically good food, and exercise. Because exercise, now we're even talking about preventing dementia and Alzheimer's through regular exercise. It's just so important.
Yeah.
These pillars, there are lots of modalities you can use. You can use acupuncture. You can use, other forms like structural therapies, etc. But fundamentally, if you look after your body, if you invest in your body now, you may come to 60s and you still feeling like I'm 20 and 30.
Yeah, and those are the things that, that's, you asked earlier before we got on here, like, what do I do? I mean, like you, I want to help people live a better life. Whether it's this podcast, I first started out as a trainer. I own a gym now, a multifaceted place that's called Flex Mobility and Performance because I care about people's mobility, flexibility, movement. I consider myself a movement expert. I'm a nutritionist. I'm a life optimization coach. So these different tools, I'm an author as well. So all these different ways to just help people, guide people. You're offering something that I'm connected with. And at the end of this podcast on the show notes, I'll provide a coupon code for people to use my link and get a discount for this tool, or at least to explore it a little more. But it's such a great tool. And she mentioned how easy it is. Eat real food, move your body every day. And, and we've talked a lot about like getting out in nature. And if you can't, or for whatever reason, that's where red light comes in. And I love that. Well, I appreciate you on here, Dr. Zulia. This has been great. I know we could talk so much more about so many other things, but for those that are listening and you're curious, like I said, I'm going to provide that. But I know that many of you found benefits. You're at least curious. So go ahead and share this, not for my benefit, not for her benefit, but for those in the world. That's one way you can serve. That's one way you could help. That's one way you could spread the love of just sharing the information and the knowledge and the wisdom that was put on this podcast by Dr. Zulia. So thank you again for listening to another episode of Strive 365. Take care.